And then we want to come back to touching upon what is it in terms of the sector does this information give us. We've also spoken in bits and pieces, I think, in various sessions yesterday with respect to wash financing. But if we could kind of consolidate that thinking about looking ahead, what does it mean for Bangladesh with respect to, typically we say wash financing, but in this case, sanitation financing. So we'll take that more in detail in the second half with other colleagues who've also joined us. So over to Digbijoy.
Thank you, Ruchika. So, no introduction is needed. Basically, as you could see, this is a sanitation finance session, and the topic is National Wash Accounts Bangladesh Guiding Sector Collaboration. So, in this session, we will have a presentation from Mr. Alamgir Hossen, Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. Then we will briefly discuss the implications of the national wash accounts in the sector, and then it would be followed by a group work. And Mr. Alamgir Hussain is here with us, so I would like to request Mr. Alamgir Hussain to come and start the presentation.
Thank you, the organizers, for inviting me here to share the experiences of National Wash Accounts 2022 with you. I think this initiative is really the uh, appreciating one that Bangladesh has adopted the national wash accounts first time in Bangladesh by the National Statistics Office with the support from the WaterAid local government division and other key partners who are working in the wash sector. First of all, you already know that the plan for wash sector is very important for the budgeting. In particularly, there was no accumulated budgeting system or any accounting system in wash sector which can track the actual expenditures and budgets of the wash sectors, because multiple stakeholders are expending their budgets in different ways like silos. So the fragmented wash expenditure should be accumulated or compiled in a same account so that we can identify what are the uh, to track the financing system in wash sector. It is very important for us. So the not only the government institutions, the ministries, agencies, but also the other NGOs, GOs, and also the development partners expenditure should be tracked, how they are engaging the wash sector, and how the financing system of the wash sector is very in moving forward in Bangladesh. Particularly, the initiative was taken from the local government division and backed by the WaterAid Bangladesh. And I would like to particularly thank few of the persons, specifically I can see one of them, M. Shafiqul Islam, the former additional secretary of local government division and statistics and information. He was one of the pioneer one who actually initiated the thinking of the development of the first national wash accounts in Bangladesh. And the WaterAid, they have actually have the they initiated the process through the local government division to make it happen. uh, the first local government division requested Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics and National Statistics Office to develop the national wash accounts for Bangladesh to track the financing system in Bangladesh for the wash sector. So you can see here the who are the partners in the initiative. First, particularly Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, the National Statistics Office uh, uh, compiled the national wash accounts, the first ever one, and it was requested by the local government division. And we had some technical supports from the WHO as well as the Data International Limited, and financial support comes from the WaterAid, UNICEF, Water.org, and BMG Foundation. And finally, all the key partners, they have contributed a lot to finalize that one. And you know that the compilation of the wash accounts actually follows the TrackFin method. So the TrackFin, you know already that TrackFin is the key guidance from the WHO. So how the financing of uh, health sector as well as the wash sector are actually tracked. So we followed the methodology in wash accounts as well. So if I share with you the overview of the wash accounts, it follows actually five processes. First of all, the mobilizing the support. The support means it can be political, it can be financial, it can be administrative, or it can be whatever, or policy related. So it is very important to develop the first wash accounts for mobilize the support from the policy side first of all, and then we had to move to plan and prepare for the implementation and the data collection from the secondary and primary sources. After collection, after the preparation level, the third step follows the actual collection of the data and verifying those data in the field, and also analyzing and processing those data for the statistical tables and compilation of the accounts. Then in the fourth step, all the collected data are mapped through the different coding system of TrackFin and finalize the accounts results and products, and validate it with the other secondary data and the other available studies, so that those data are actually perfectly compiled or not. And finally, the results of the national wash accounts are being disseminated and planned for the wash financing system of the particular country for here in Bangladesh actually. So if we see the salient features of the Bangladesh National Wash Accounts 2020, you can see few of the issues. First of all, uh, the main challenge of the wash accounts is to identify the or to accumulate the data from the household or out-of-pocket expenditures. So a standalone survey, household survey particularly, conduction of the household survey is a very important one for the primary data. Secondly, all the three components of the wash, water, sanitation and hygiene, all should be covered in the survey and compilation of the data. Hygiene and scope of hygiene expenditures, we finalize through the different consultations with the key stakeholders, what should be the coverages and scopes of the data collection. We incorporated particularly the income quintile, which is very important for us to see the disparities among the income groups, and we try to analyze the out of pocket expenditure, particularly at the household level, how we can identify the inequalities among the households. We also consider the gender context, particularly if we see the ministerial hygiene issues are also addressed for this purpose. So, who are the key actors in wash sector, and how they classification, particularly the funding classifications, were accumulated? First of all, we have identified 10 types of actors here. First of all, according to the TrackFin, we try to uh, accommodate all those in the according to the TrackFin system. First of all, the users, the national authorities, the regional authorities, local authorities, network corporate providers, non-network corporate providers, bilateral and multilateral donors, NGOs and community-based organizations, banks and financial institutions, and for the household, uh, those can be households, can be they can be government and autonomous bodies, development partners, NGOs, and private organizations. These six types is the major category we can classify actually. So according to TrackFin, these particular 10 groups can be identified. I am not going to all the definitions, it is publicly available, you can see all those. And the funding units is also classified in particularly three categories: the user, the NGO and the community based organizations, and the bank and financial institutions. So I will jump to the data collection and mapping and analysis portion here. So the Bangladesh National Wash Accounts followed the four types of data actually. We compiled four types of data. First of all, we conducted the household level survey, and we estimated the out of pocket expenditures by the households. Then we have conducted enterprise and institutional surveys for the estimating the organizational expenditure. Third one, the NGO and development partners, they have reported their, we have also collected those data through the survey. And government audited expenditure, we have taken that one from the IBAS system. The household wash expenditure data, if we see the household level, we have conducted the wash expenditure survey in 2021. We have followed the computer assisted personal interviewing method, not the paper and pencil method. You all know that the Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics is completely following the computer assisted personal interviewing method right now for all surveys and censuses. So we followed that one in 2021 as well, and we took nationally representative sample size 5050 households from 8 divisions as a domain. We took 25 households each of the primary sampling units. We covered about total 2002 primary sampling units all over the Bangladesh. Enterprise and institutions wash data, we collected through a different institutional survey. For this survey, we have taken the sampling frame from the BBS Business Directory 2019 frame, and sample designing was carried out the sampling committee at BBS. It comprises of the academia and experts in sampling design, as well the core domain of wash area was involved in this process. We have taken the enterprise and institutional surveys conducted through that our technical partner Data International. So they provided support to collect those data. So we have taken 7 categories. You can see that we have interviewed private school and colleges. It was 356. University, both public and private, was 99. Private health facility was 380. Public and private bank was 56. Ready-made garments and knitting factory was 360. Hotel, restaurant and tea stalls were 380, and other enterprises who have the 10 plus total person employed is 330. We covered the NGOs and development partners as well. We have conducted surveys on 397 NGOs and 21 development partners who have the expenditures on the wash. We took the government expenditure from the IBAS system. It was an audited data, not the commitment or not the budget data actually, the actual expenditure after audit. So we had some challenges to face that one. I am not going to share all the challenges here. So we took those data from the IBAS system through the help of local government division. And what are the challenges we faced actually from the CGA data? Particularly, we are following the TrackFin method, but the IBAS system doesn't follow exactly the TrackFin method. So we have to identify and map the coding system of IBAS system and also the TrackFin system, and mapping those for compiling our national wash account system. So wash expenditure of for the biggest proportion of the government expenditure comes from the local government division, but there are some other ministries and agencies who have some government expenditure on water. So particularly if you see the Ministry of Health, they have some wash expenditures, and other ministries have some wash expenditure. We have to track all of them for this particular purpose. So you can see here the IBAS system data structure, how they are following the accounting system in the process. This is the dissemination seminar photograph here. So we try to share the final output of the national wash accounts at the national level with a big seminar, dissemination seminar, and we try to involve all the key stakeholders in the process. And this is the key findings, the report of the national wash accounts, which is available online in BBS website. I will share with you the QR code so that you can download that one later. So you can see here the main summary of the national wash accounts. We have identified about 600 crore taka, a billion taka actually expenditure we found in wash in one fiscal year. Most of the if we see it, it's actually 2.18% of the GDP in expenditure in wash sector. Most of the expenditure found in hygiene activities, 59% hygiene activities, but there are some other things, particularly the basic sanitation have the share of about 14%. Sanitation through large network system, it comprises 12%. Basic drinking water have the share of 9%, and other water supply large network systems 5.3%. And hygiene promotion activities have 1.2%. You might ask that what is the actually behind the causes. As per our preliminary exercise, what we found that the survey was conducted and the data collection was conducted in 2020, and this was the first COVID year. So a large proportion of the hygiene expenditures are taken place in that particular year for hygiene activities. So that's why you can see the largest proportion here. If we see particularly the household expenditures in wash sector, again the hygiene is accounts for 70% of the total expenditure in wash at household level, and 17% for sanitation and 13% for drinking water expenditures. And we identified that 471 billion taka was expended. There are being expended from the out of pocket of the households, which is 79% of total wash expending in the particular year 2020. If you see among them, 69% was for water, 51% for sanitation, and 93% for hygiene. Particularly a very important findings we have published that if you see the well quintile, the poor and poorest group, particularly they have the higher percentage of their income, total income of the wash sector, both in urban and rural areas. So who are actually poor, they are spending more than the richer. Here is the another table. This table showing the total expenditure in the main wash service and service area. So you can see here by the different expending authorities in the particularly by service, the network system, the basic drinking water service, sanitation service, support service, and hygiene service. So you can see here the 60% of overall wash expended in hygiene, and 69% of supplied piped water is spending urban areas particularly. So it was the two more important features of the result. And wash expenditure, if we see the type of uses in wash, you can see here the household, the 85% of the users are from the household level, and there are some other particular proportion. The government have the 6%, and the private organization have the 3% share, and you can see here 3% have the organizations, the institutions, like this. If you see the wash expenditure by type of wash provider, by provider, if you see that self-provided is holding the highest share. You can see here 81% are self-provided actually. So there are rooms to work here. So and national authority, they are providing 13%, and the service is provided by 3% by the local authorities actually, and NGO have a very tiny share, 0.5%. If we see the funding unit of the total wash expenditure, you can see here the again the highest proportion are lying with the users themselves, 82%, and national authority is expending 14%, fund is coming from the national authorities, and the other local authorities is 2%. Network corporate providers are providing 2% of the funds of the total national wash account system. And if we see the financing type, you can see here that the biggest proportion is coming from the expenditure on the self supply, which is 81%, and the central and subnational government funding is 16% of the total expenditure. The funding source from the bilateral, multilateral donors are also coming in tiny amounts. I am going to share with the concluding remarks with you. The this first indicator was actually standardized. Our main objective was to standardize and adapting it with the national statistical system. So we have tried to follow as guided in the TrackFin system, and try to also identify the users, providers, fund providers, source of financing, everything according to the TrackFin method, and detailed expenditure for this particular exercise was to generate the evidences for the policymakers, so that it can, and also following the TrackFin method, so that it can be also um, can be compare with the international standards and international other countries who are actually compiling the national wash accounts. And this is the first time, the first ever national wash accounts serves as the benchmark or baseline for the national wash accounts monitoring system in Bangladesh. And particularly, again, I should mention that the COVID-19 pandemic was at the peak during the compilation, and and that's why the out-of-pocket expenditures took the highest place, for particularly the expenditures in the hygiene sector in Bangladesh. Uh, I think what we should do in future, we are now thinking of the second national we have developed the second national strategy for the development of statistics, NSDS, which will be implemented throughout the 2024 to 2030, and it's under approval of the government, and we have incorporated the national wash account system in the plan in future, so that BBS can regularly compile this national wash account system. Second, uh, we have planned to provide the exclusive training for the human resources in BBS and other staff members who are actually users of those data. So in future, another we are thinking to getting fund for particularly in future, to how we can regularly conduct the compilation of the national wash accounts in future. And also we are also thinking to establish a particular unit in Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics who will compile the national wash accounts regularly. So we have also proposed a unit under the demography and health wing in BBS to establish a separate unit for that one in future under the NSDS, so that we can continue the work in future with a sustainable manner. Thank you everyone. Thanks to the partners. If you have any if you have interest on this particular report, please visit BBS website. You will get it, the PDF version, and if you have interest more, please contact with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alamgir Hossen, for the wonderful presentation. As you have noticed, I mean, we have started just the moment he has arrived. So thank you again for that. And now, as you could see in the presentation, it's a gold mine and it has a lot of implications. And I would now request Mr. Partha Hefaz for sharing the implications of the wash accounts on our sector.
Just to let you know, among us, we have one of, Alamgir was talking about Shafiq Bhai, but among us, we have one person who basically pushed, that's what I'm going by, he basically, it's his brainchild. So, he pushed uh, for the realization of Bangladesh wash accounts, and that's Dr. Mohammed Khairul Islam. He's with us. So, he was the one, basically, it's his brainchild, and he has been pushing us for doing all this. So, finally, we have been able to do it. So, when we talk about implications, and you have seen, Alamgir have showed a couple of information there. But the major glaring information is basically here. How the investments of the government in terms of water sanitation hygiene and where it's going. So if you look at this overall annual income and wash expenditure by households, when you look at Bangladesh in general, overall population, it's 4.3% of anyone's income is going into wash. So basically, if you look into UN and the affordability kind of index, anything hovering around 4 is affordable in a way. So if you look into Bangladesh overall, you will probably would see, okay, Bangladesh, it's right, 4.3. So it's almost okay. But again, pointing to Alamgir Bhai's presentation, remember that he already told you that we have done it by the income quantiles. So when we wanted to look into the income quantiles and how people's expenditure is varying, that is something that is very glaring in a way. So even when you talk about, when we talk about the richest Bangladesh-wise, the richest quantile spends around 2.8% of their income. And the poorest, 7.8%. So you see, averages can be a bit, misleading in a way. So even when we talk about the average of the whole country and looking into the poorest quantile, it's almost double the standard that UN says, 4%. It's 7.8%. Looking into the rural, over here, you see again, the poorest is around 7.6%, the richest 3.1. The urban, when you look into this is far more glaring. The urban poorest quantile spends around 9% of their income for wash. So this is where, when you talk about implications of all this, this is where we need to start thinking, where is the spend, where is the expenditure? Guys, you can have this, it's in the website of BBS, so I'm directly showing you the report. So, download that report and you can have it. So that is where basically, the analysis basically starts. And just to give you an example of what we have done in Bangladesh, again with Dr. Khairul Islam's leadership, when he was the country director for Bangladesh, WaterAid Bangladesh, we started something back in 2010, 2011. We started to look into the national budget of Bangladesh and what is the expenditure allocation in terms of wash. And what we have seen over the years, in the last 10, 12 years, is that there has been a systematic disinvestment or non-investment or not investment, however you term it, in terms of the rural, coastal, the hills, the barren tracts, the Howard regions, what we call the hard-to-reach areas, that overall, whatever is allocated or whatever is spent in terms of the national wash budget allocation, only around 1 to 1.5 to 2% is being spent on these all areas. So, and when you look into this and you match that up, it's not hieroglyphics. It's plain, simple math. That the investments which is not being done at the rural, at the hard-to-reach areas, basically has translated into this. That the poorer communities, the poorer households, is compelled to spend a higher portion of their income in terms of water sanitation hygiene. So this is one of the key major things that we in Bangladesh are, using in our advocacy with the government. That these are things that there needs to be, much more investments in terms of hard to reach areas when you talk about financing, and that when you add that to the climate change scenario, climate resilience scenario, definitely the investments has to be even much more. So that is what is one of the major implications of this work that we have done, is that even if I didn't let you know that we have done this 10 years of national wash accounts, as a national wash budget analysis, you could also immediately understand that there has been some kind of a non-investments in terms of the poorer sections of the country. So this is something that we really have found and are using in terms of our advocacy with the government in Bangladesh. And this is something, I hope you guys take on in your country and try to understand where, we can go with this. In very short, anything else?
No, that's good. Thank you. I'll move it back.
Right. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Partha bhai. I think the wash accounts to a great extent helps us in terms of understanding where we stand in terms of the investments, how much is spent, what is it spent on, by whom is it spent. So that gives us an idea as to where we stand now. The idea is, what do we do from there on? Partha bhai has already highlighted certain concerns with respect to climate hotspots not getting enough, the poor in urban and rural not getting enough in terms of the investments. So, do I move ahead? Okay. So the idea that we had is, because we've spoken in bits in the last one day over various sessions, is a lot of people had ideas with respect to what needs to be done going ahead. We thought of actually trying to consolidate that in a session now, where if we can break up in 3 groups to be looking at aspects of where we want to go. But just before that, I'll just take you through a couple of slides. Yeah. So this is something that we've been working in, and I know Sanitation and Water for All is been taking the leadership on this with UNICEF. WaterAid's been involved, IRC's been involved in the drafting of the handbook too. So one of the ways to actually plan for the sector ahead is to be looking at a finance strategy in terms of first understanding where we are. So that is some bit of work that's already been done, understanding what the gap is, assessing the various options. And I think these are options that we've heard over the last few sessions yesterday, and seeing what is actually practical. This is a long process, long as in it takes 6 to 12 months with government in the leadership, again similar to what was done in the wash accounts, but it requires a lot of other stakeholders to be thrashing out what are the possible options to ensure everyone's covered, looking at sustainable services, looking at climate within that. So it's essentially a guide to inform decisions around budgets to ensure sustainable services. The benefits of it actually goes back to the plenary yesterday morning, that if you have what Jack Sims referred to is a cleaner system, a more transparent system, you will have policies or strategies like this which actually inform wash policies and expenditures. If it is informing and there is transparency, then there is more credibility to also tap on other finances that are there, leading to an all over improved wash governance in the sector. So this is just to kind of highlight, there's much more information about the finance strategy, and we have resources that we will provide in the end, but it's just to kind of structure the discussions that have been happening yesterday. We wanted to look at, do we know the finance gap? If all the tables can take that, we're going to break up in three. We have certain volunteers for each of these. What are the potential options for filling the gap? That will be taken up by Ranjanda. Ranjanda. Um, uh, the other is with respect to the systemic bottlenecks. That is something Zubair Bhai, who works with DOP, leads with DOP, will be taking up in terms of what are the systemic gaps, what are the leaks, like non-revenue water like leaks that are there, and how can we actually address this together. And we have Aslam Bhai, who will be helping us in terms of thinking this through. He comes from a microfinance background, but will be looking at it from all other finance options also. So couple of things to keep in mind. And this comes again from the finance strategy handbook. The options could be looking at improving what we already have. We've also spoken about this yesterday. There are allocations which are less, but even then, within that, expenditure is a problem. Do we need to re-look at the WASH targets that are there for 2030 or whatever timeline we have? What is actually practically possible for the country, and then look at what it costs? Do we look at increasing beneficiary contribution in terms of tariffs, in taxes through various other public budgets? Are we looking at certain other additional grants coming into the sector through transfers? Increase in repayable finance, and other measures that need to be taken to attract external funding, private funding, sorry. This is a nice diagram to look at. Again, the resources is the handbook. It's an If you look at maximizing the resources that we already have, that requires actually limited or quite less reform. We just look at increasing the money by plugging the gaps and the bottom leaks that are there. Mobilizing more finance comparatively requires some changes that are there. Looking on the other end at other innovative finances requires more changes in attitude, in behavior, in practices, reform, and all of that. So these are just some food for thought for you, and we'll just break up in groups now. And we have how much time?
We have half an hour. Half an hour? The question is how we divide the table. We can go in the
Can people move? We have Zubair Bhai in the center for systemic bottlenecks. We have Ranjan. You'll need to move. Okay. Aslam.
So, I'm going to table 1, requesting the representative from table 1 to come and share the key observations. Yeah, table 1.
No. Please do not cover all the bullet points. If we could just listen to table 1, request to all presenters, please do not share all the bullet points. We will see all the bullet points, but do share the key ones that came up in your discussion the most, because and we try not to repeat from one table to the other. The question to you was with respect to options for filling gaps. So over to you.
So our section was about potential options for filling this gap. So firstly, we took mobilizing different kinds of funding. For example, we should not only focus on the big investments, rather we should also focus on the small capital investments that would help in giving the infrastructures which are small. And then also the third one, like cross-subsidy in tariff systems to support service expenditures by poor. And then cross-sectoral partnership. For example, we can engage the public-private partnership and improve the private sector engagement. We can bring in the health sector and other NGOs who are working for other social causes. Then number 7, microfinance on WASH. So microfinance has over time became a little controversial. We have different opinions regarding it, but our main target here was to highlight that we can provide soft loans and can improve the WASH facilities of the households. And then number 8, strong advocacy towards political economy for increasing the public investment, analyzing and increasing the willingness to pay and ability to pay of the service receivers, because sometimes we see that they do not the private sector especially do not want to give want to invest in increasing the WASH facilities because they don't have the ability to pay. So if there's no profit, there's not going to be any investment. So the willingness needs to be ensured. Awareness campaigns can be built for this. Then use of CSR, corporate social responsibility, through having incentivized private sector engagement. Generating evidence-based research. We do not have enough evidence-based and strong research on WASH, and that is why we lag behind when we go for ask, when we go for claiming what we need. So that needs to be ensured. Decentralized WASH requirement or investment analysis by local government for attracting through social lens, like we kept JETSI and other social lens. Like when we are going for analyzing, the local government should keep the lens that is inclusive, so that no points get missed. So, then mobilizing social credits and resources. That was our last point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. So one is with respect to big investments, the fact to look at also other small options, but big investments are also important in the sector. Group 1 is super excited about their presentation, which is great. But one couple of interesting things was also the enabling environment for private sector to make sure it's regulated, but at the same time that it's profitable for them, and the cross-sectoral bit. So that was also very interesting. We move on to table 2 to be looking at the key bottlenecks. Zubair bhai.
Good afternoon, everybody. Our group is 2, and we have covered bottlenecks of the financing in Bangladesh WASH sector. So it depends on what type of bottle we have, and also the necks, different types of bottles. Now we have found in our baggage that's type WaterAid bottle, that is necks is different, but other bottle is different. So that we have considered a lot, and we found that utilization of WASH budget. We have budget, but whatever it is, its utilization is not properly happening. So that's the major gap we have identified, and then the lack of understanding of the health or other benefits. I mean, whatever investing is going on, we don't understand that do you need to invest more or not, whether it is covered by our GDP or other budget allocation. So that is important. And all of we know that's in this room that we have lack of strong policy framework or the implementation framework, and also the budget management. Here is the main gaps we have identified. There is no bottom-up approach. It is always top-down approach in budget allocation and budget management. And in the presentation also we have seen disparity in rural and urban, and also poor and rich. So we have to reducing that gap, but we need to think about it is not only that financing, but also social investment and political willingness is also there. And finally, but not least, that governance systems need to be strengthening. We have numbers of ministries, departments, but we don't know who is responsible for WASH, particularly in Bangladesh. Local government ministry of in our country that is responsible for water, sanitation, hygiene, but it is very much busy with many other activities, particularly elections. So that's the important to identify the policy framework and the governance systems, and local resource mobilization. It depends on, we have heterogeneous areas in our country, need wetlands in some kind of allocation, coastal areas need different, urban areas different, and that need to be analyzed properly, and also think about the utilization according to the need. And finally, the less priority of wash by duty bearers. They think that it is the responsibility of the households, and that is also come up in the BBS report. 76 or 81% are coming from households, and we have also seen it is also in GLASS report also. But hardware needs huge capital cost, and that is the budget allocation is low in this respect. But we have seen also the hygiene coverage is huge, because that is depends on the behavior change and other initiatives. So altogether, the three major issues we have identified: weak governance and systematic budgeting systems in the till the local level, and the understanding of the priority and investing by the government. Thank you very much.
Sorry, we would like to add the things that we discussed. That is, there should a wash ministry differently. So now this is the time of reform in Bangladesh. So getting all the things together about wash, we can do the ministry, and all the finance should be go there. So thank you.
One of the other bottlenecks often ends up being lower capacities at the local level, lower institutional capacities. And I think looking at institutional reform would address that. We move to group number 3 in terms of how would the sector work on some of these challenges that are there. Group number 3. I think it's important to note they had a SKS group who was there, and the women were very, very active in this group. So it was really good to see their participation.
Thank you. Thank you. So our topic was very interesting and important also. So how, as a sector, we can work to minimize the gap. So nowadays everyone is talking a lot, especially for last 2 days in different groups. We are talking the as a whole, the wash and sanitation sector, market, the volume of the total needs and the gaps. So as a team, we work as announced is like very actively in different groups. So what we found as a whole is like there are 2 major activities and points we can address as a sector. Number 1 is like the coordination, because what we see is like very rapidly we're transitioning from one era to another era. It seems is like from the traditional wash programming to the financing options. So in that case, what might happen, yesterday we have seen a presentation from Adib Bhai also is from BRAC, is like what we see কান নিয়ে গেল চিলের মতো আর কি, আমরা যখন যেখানে যাচ্ছি is like just we are jumping into the ocean, but what is really happening in that area, we also need to be more cautious. That is why as a sector, maybe it is the very high time to coordinate, to plan accordingly, as well as after the planning, we'll have to have real coordination for going together to address everything. And finally, we were finding and we were talking is like the monitoring. So time to time there should be a close monitoring and supportive supervision from the sector, as well as the findings will be disseminated accordingly so that we all can be aware. Okay, so with that three major points, I would like to hand it over to our young stars from the group to say something. Over to you. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I am working with SKS Foundation as a youth volunteer. তো আমি অ্যাজ এ ইউথ ভলান্টিয়ার হিসাবে যে ফিনান্সিং গ্যাপটা পূরণ করার জন্য আমরা তুলে ধরেছি হচ্ছে যে গভর্নমেন্ট ইনভলভেশন আর হচ্ছে স্টুডেন্ট যে ফর্মস বা ইউথ ফর্মস, যে আমাদের মতোই যারা ইউথ আছি আমরা বা স্কুলে আমরা যে শিক্ষার্থীরা আছি, তা আমরা প্রত্যেক দিন একটা টিফিনের অংশ আমরা প্রতিষ্ঠানে নিয়ে যাই, ফ্যামিলি থেকে দেয়া হয়। সেখান থেকে যদি আমরা ছোট্ট করে 5 টাকা হোক বা তার থেকে কমই হোক, সেটা যদি আমরা ওই ফান্ডে জমা করতে পারি, এটা পরবর্তীতে আমাদের স্যানিটেশনের জন্য কাজে লাগবে। সেই শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠানে যদি আমাদের ওই স্যানিটেশনের ব্যবস্থা থাকে, আমরা যারা মেয়েরা আছি সেই স্কুলেই পড়তে হচ্ছে, তারা আমাদের যখন দরকার আমরা যখন খুশি তখনই ব্যবহার করতে পারছি। ধন্যবাদ। My name is Boishaki Kormokar. আমি নবলোক পরিষদ থেকে আসছি। I am work from youth volunteers. আমরা এই আমরা এই বিভিন্ন পর্যায় থেকে আমরা এখানে অর্থ সংগ্রহ করতে পারি, যেমন আপনার প্রাইভেট কর্পোরেট ডোনার্স, বিভিন্ন কর্পোরেট পর্যায়ে আমরা যারা কাজ করি সেখান থেকেও আমাদের কিছুটা মানি আমরা সংগ্রহ আমরা ব্যক্তি পর্যায়ে আসতে পারি। পকেট মানি, বিভিন্ন আমরা যে জব করি বা সেটা থেকে আমরা কিছুটা অর্থ সে সোর্স হিসাবে আমরা দিতে পারি। রিলিজিয়ান কমিউনিটি সোর্স থেকে আসতে পারে, বিভিন্ন ধর্ম প্রতিষ্ঠান থেকে আমরা বিভিন্ন ধর্মীয় প্রতিষ্ঠান থেকে আমরা এই অর্থটা আসতে পারে। স্মল সেভিং, আমরা বিভিন্ন কিশোর এলাকা বা অঞ্চল পর্যায়ে কিশোরী থেকে আমরা নিজেরা কিছু জমাকৃত অর্থ আমরা এখান থেকে আসতে পারে। এছাড়াও আমরা গভর্নমেন্ট থেকে আসতে পারে, বিভিন্ন আমরা অঞ্চলে গভর্নমেন্টের পর্যায়ের মেম্বার, চেয়ারম্যান, কাউন্সিলর ইত্যাদি রয়েছে, তারা এখানে অর্থ দিয়ে আপনার সহযোগিতা করতে পারে। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Very nice. Thank you. So she actually also captured all the key actors who need to be playing a part when we say the sector should be doing something. Who are the key actors? So that was very well done. So thank you. I'm just going to go over a couple of resources that we have. For those of you interested to be talking or thinking or engaging more on WASH finance as a sector, there's a finance course that we have on the WASH Systems Academy. It's a 15 to 16-hour course. It's very helpful in terms of understanding how we need to be looking at WASH finances. It's mostly at the national level or sub-national level when we're looking at building strategies. A lot of the material that we talk about when we talk about WASH finance strategies, these are the guidelines that are there, but also the handbook, both very helpful and easy to go through. So especially those involved with the CY cell could play a key role in terms of pushing for the sanitation strategy. I will request Khairul Bhai now to do the closing of this session.
Thank you. I think it was an excellent session with the presentation of the national accounts, and then, you know, the way in 3 different groups you have worked. I will just highlight on 2-3 points very quickly. One, definitely in 20 or 25 minutes work, I mean, we haven't really resolved all these problems. So we need to carry on this thinking, and when you carry on, try to bridge the language of the wash finance people and those who are non-finance manager and sector actor, and try to do that. Yeah, I mean, why I'm saying this, I mean, the typical language of finance is tariff, tax, transfer. But that really doesn't really answer to the question that, most of the people from the rural areas where sanitation is almost 100% household matter. You pay out of pocket, you manage it on your own. So who do I pay tariff? It's self-supply, self-finance kind of, out of pocket. Why we promoted national wash accounts? Basically, it's showing that whatever we discuss about finance, wash financing, the major contributor is out-of-pocket expenditure, meaning household is the main contributor. Now, here is the trap, that out of the households, all the households, is the poorest of the poor and the bottom poor who are paying disproportionately on low quality wash services. I am repeating, it is the poorest of the poor who are paying more in proportion of their disposable income for poor quality wash services. How we can minimize their plight, their sufferings, and what UN says that it should not be more than 5% of the total disposable income. Obviously, those are getting violated. How we can really minimize those so that a bit of parity, the term that we use, inequality, inequity, or so that's the whole crux. That's the manifestation that this is happening. And despite all these works, so much of pumping of all these resources, if you look into the last 3 JMP report of inequity in wash, you'll be seeing in most countries inequity is increasing, it's not decreasing, especially for the poorest of the poor. So those who are really passionate about finance, what I'm seeing in this room, your first thinking should be, how can I decrease that inequity? How the poorest of the poor and the bottom poor, their proportionate income, disposable income, is not spent in the same proportion, but it's slightly less. At least to the level which is permissible in UN standard, that not over 5% or so. If we can achieve that, now here comes the methodology, or how, whether you will be achieving it through increasing taxes, by taking more money, by attracting CSR and all this, your end result or aim should be towards that we would like to minimize the out-of-pocket expenditure, at least of those 2 bottom income quintile. If you can achieve that in 5 years' time, most of your efforts, budget advocacy, all those posters, you meet the parliamentarians, finance minister, all those things will be meaningful if the data shows some progression towards that. Otherwise, more money will come, but situation will not improve. It will go indirectly for the upper income quintile people who don't need it. Let me finish with this now. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and Khairul Bhai, just to make sure clarity with respect to the aim in terms of equity and services to all. Thank you.